Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Under 35 Entrepreneur Show. So today, before that, my name is Chin Bing, Chin from the Chin, Bing from Bing.com. So today I have Felix Hartmann to join me to talk about social media marketing, how we can use it to boost our business. So Felix is an incredible entrepreneur. Let me read you some of his achievements. So in 2014, he started his first real venture and he won the Startup Weekend. Startup Weekend. So Startup Weekend is a world class event where you actually start a business in just a few, I think in just a number of days. And in 2015, he started his own consulting firm called Hartmann Capital, where he served as a consulting firm to major brands such as NextGen, SubX, and Pinch. And all these brands has been featured. Some of the brands has been featured from Forbes in magazine to USA Today and Huffington Post, and he even got invited to talk to be a speaker. So today we have such an amazing entrepreneur join us today. I hope you can learn a lot from this episode. So without further ado, let's get started here. Again proper. Right. Welcome, Felix. Hi. So
Hey, how are you doing?
let's kick start with the interview with this question. How do you get to what you are doing today? Why and how do you start your journey as an entrepreneur?
So it started a long time ago, I would
Yeah.
say. I think that just the entrepreneurial spirit, it's something that's inside of you. Ever since I was young, during the summers, I would always find projects to do. During one summer, I started like a YouTube channel where I taught people how to play guitar. Another summer, I started a nonprofit organization. So like every time we're basically at free time and I was off from school, I would always try to find a way to do something, to create something. But it really kicked off for me back in 2014. I was competing at a startup weekend. I won it, and then I went on to the global startup battle. I got fourth there in the US portion. And for the first time, I was working on a startup. I was like just soaking up knowledge right and left because at that point it wasn't as much about, building my first
Mm.
big business. It was more about, like really getting in the scene, networking, getting to know the people, learning the ins and outs. And then as time progressed, it's just like you basically when you start, you're here, and then it's not a path for me. It's more like expansion. Like you get to know more people, and it just builds on top of each other. You learn more. Like you learn about marketing. Learn about product design. You learn about uh, brand and like anything possible. So for me, like again, like it was a journey more. I started early. But after a while, what really kicked it off for me was something that's called Next Gen Summit. I'm actually one of the founding team members, and at Next Gen Summit, we basically bring together the brightest minds, like the biggest hustlers, of the world. Actually, just last week I was there for the round two, and we've had people from the U.S., Canada, Switzerland, Spain, Israel, South America, China, all parts of the world. And really, like what that highlighted for me was that people our age, people that are younger than me, they are further than me. So that was kind of almost like giving me that fire that I know people our age can do it. People our age are doing it. So like there's nothing really stopping me from doing so. There's been many parts that played into me being where I am now. But I think one of the biggest parts really just is like that hunger for creating something and like making more out of life than just having the 9 to 5 job or just being a part of someone else's dream versus building your own dream.
Wow, that's amazing. How old are you, by the way?
I'm 21.
You're even younger than me. I'm 22. So
Awesome.
it is really remarkable on how young you are and you are building so many things. So
Hmm.
from what I learned from online, it is sales and marketing is your strength and branding as well. So my question
Yes.
would be, how can we 10x our social media grow and convert it into raving fans? How can we do that? How can we go about that? Do you have a system for it?
Yeah. So the first
Mm-hmm.
main key that you really have to you have to tackle is that most people, they don't even know what their brand is. You know, I can ask them, you know, in one sentence, tell me, what does your brand symbolize? What does it signify? And you know, I charge people a lot of money for like just like 10 hours of my time, but like, you know, I give them the results. So my system is like, step one, you have to really define your brand, you know, like what's what's the why, what's the mission, what's the vision behind it. So, you know, like in one line, create a vision. The next step is, how do you convey that feeling? Like, it's more like, what does that feeling look like? Is it, you know, I always say, for example, if it's a Twitter channel, are you communicating, you know, like, are you kind of like joking? Are you funny, easygoing? Like if it's a young brand, like a young clothing brand, or let's say, for example, a total frat move, Instagram, a Twitter account, or are you more very serious, very clear? Like, for example, let's say you have a brokerage firm, you know, like, so like there's like A, define what's the vision, B, what does it look like? How do you communicate it? Like, what kind of pictures go along with that vision, like on Instagram? What kind of tone in messaging goes along with that on Twitter, for example? Or maybe there's some sort of video content you should put out.
Okay.
And then step C is how, knowing now what I communicate and how I communicate it, what channels are best to use it. So you really, you know, sometimes people, you know, they do all things right, but that's just on the wrong channel, you know. Let's say, for example, you're marketing a book, and just like book marketing on Twitter is awesome, or book marketing on Instagram is not going that well, because it's not that niche. Just the way, like, you can sell info products, like for example lifestyle stuff, you can sell that really well on Instagram, because, you know, you can show, that's what a lot of people do, you know, they post pictures of, you know, champagne bottles and islands and girls and whatnot, and boom, people like, oh, I want that lifestyle. So like, you know, there's, for every vision and for every how you convey that, there's the right channel. So you have to define those three things, and then just continuously put out content. And the last, I guess, secret ingredient is to don't wait for your audience to find you. You have to find your audience, which means, let's say, for example, let's say I want to create a new sports brand for shoes. Where can I find my fans? Probably they're Nike fans right now, you know? So I have to see, like, I have to look for, like, on Instagram, Twitter, like, that's what the search bar is for. You can search people that post about Nike. You can find people that follow Nike. You can find people that like all of Nike's pictures, and then you engage with them. You know, maybe you comment on that picture saying like, hey, you should check out my apparel. You know, if you like Nike, you probably like mine. Or you just show like, even a simple like let's say you like every single picture that hashtags Nike on a day. Probably some people will be like, huh, what's the sports apparel account that liked my picture? They look at it, and maybe, hey, even if it's 5 out of 100, say, wow, this is really cool, let me put it in an order. So, and now we have a whole different approach. Now, you know, like, now you go at it from a standpoint where you know exactly what is my brand. I know exactly, if I, like, let's say I hire an intern, I can be like, if you write a post, this is how it should sound like. You know exactly how it's supposed to sound, how it's conveyed. And then step 3, know exactly what channels are you on. And lastly, you find your audience, versus just sitting there. You know, like the average person that holds a social media account, like most businesses, they just hire some college kid or something, pay them $10 to $15 an hour because they don't know what to do with it, and be like, yeah, just make a few posts a day, you know? So it's, for people, it's more quantity than quality. There's no conversion for them. It's more like, as long as there's new stuff put out, we're doing our job. But that job is not putting content out. The job is converting, finding people that are interested and turning them into fans. And I think that's a key point. You know, you asked me, how do you create raving fans? You have to start somewhere, and the starting point is find somebody that already has interest, that already is looking for something that you have, and then just, you know, just dominate by having a really good product. And I think you go from there, because I think the wrong approach is, like, for example, like trying to get everyone. You're not going to get everyone, but like, as long as you can, like, find people that, like, let's say somebody's right now for me, for example, let's say somebody's looking right now for a trading coach. If I can get them in that moment and I show them some great value and show them like, hey, my strategies, they can make you a profitable trader, like they can just change your whole system, then boom, they do my, let's say they buy my product or they convert into raving fans because like it works for them, versus me trying really hard and keep marketing to people that are not even interested. So this was a long response. To make it shorter, basically just A, know what you're about, and B, how you communicate it. Choose, let's say, 3 channels to start with that make sense, that other competitors are using too, and then just find your audience. Yep.
All right. Yeah. Okay. I agree with you. Like, sales and marketing is actually not really trying to get everyone else to buy your product, but rather it is like a filter to find. You are trying to find the right people instead of trying to market it to everyone. So, I just want to clarify something. So, how do you have a certain underlying principle on which channel to use? For example, like just now you were saying, if you want to market a book, Instagram will be good, but Twitter is not. How do we know what are the checkpoints? Yeah, I would say to
The main way to find out which channel is right for you is to find out where your audience is sitting. And I mean, you can look up demographics on a lot of that. Let's say, for example, perfect example, Pinterest. Pinterest is mainly girls. Like a lot of it, it's just girls. While let's say, for example, totally different that most people don't use, that a lot of people don't use, Twitch. That's for gamers. It's a lot of guys, maybe in their, let's say, 16 to 24 range, while Pinterest is more girls, let's say 13 through 24 range. So for, let's say, a financial firm has no place on Pinterest, what are you going to do on Pinterest? But there's power to every social media channel. So like, I do believe in like, in getting as many channels as possible, but over time, it can be overwhelming if you start a company and you're like, oh, I need all these 10 different social media accounts. You're not going to do well. I'd rather see somebody, let's say, choose 3, or 2 or something. Let's say 3. Let's say Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and then build them strong. And once they have a strong platform at one place, they can expand. So, but by me, for example, I'm using Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Periscope, Snapchat, LinkedIn. Something I haven't tackled yet is YouTube, but now that my Instagram is pretty sizable, I'm at like 25,000 followers. Now I want to make that shift into YouTube. But it wouldn't have made sense to like try both at the same time. Like it makes more sense to figure out one platform first, get a strong following in one platform, and then once I make my first videos, I can transfer a lot of the followers over. I can make posts about like I can put it in my comment section. I can put it in the bio that, hey, my new video is up. Now I'm like, all these people follow me about motivation, inspiration on Instagram. Now I can say, hey, if you want the substance, it's over YouTube. And I think that actually tackles a key point you just asked. Like how do you find out what to use it for? With every social medium, you have a different tools that are like a different frame. Meaning on Instagram, it's really hard to put substance, obviously, because you just have one picture and the comment section. So maybe you could put a lot of substance, like you discuss something in the description, but then again, there's only so much space. So what I'd rather see on Instagram, what really works, and that's what it's all about, finding out what works. Like a motivational quote, or even if it's just a picture, and then put motivation in the description, like something, because you have maybe like I would say 2 to 6 seconds of attention. So when people scroll by, like, wow, that's a really beautiful picture. Let me read the caption, and then you say something that sounds really good, that speaks to them and motivates them. Then they like it. Instagram is not the place for like giving, like teaching stuff. That's where YouTube, you have like an actual like video content. So just know what everything's like. Don't try to put the same content on every platform. That's not how it works. Use each platform for what it's good for, and find ways of what it can be strength for.
So it really comes down to where your audience are gathering at. So
Right.
yeah,
I mean, if you
okay.
want to give me like, if it's like, hey Felix, what would you do for this type of company? And I can give you an example
Mm-hmm.
if you can think of anything.
Okay. Let's say if I selling computers. Yeah.
Okay, computers. Um, so that's interesting. Instagram, if you think about it,
Yes.
is kind of like the modern version of just printed banner ads, like when you drive on the highway and there's a big printed ad.
Mm-hmm.
Instagram is basically that, just in the digital form.
Oh,
So
okay.
for computers, nobody ever wanted to look at a picture of a computer. It's not that attractive. But now if you look at Apple, for example, even though they didn't do it with their, back then there was no social media, the way they promoted themselves was not talking about computers but talking about the users. Like
Mm-hmm.
Apple had this whole video and this whole concept, like think different, and like they would put up posters of like famous figures, famous leaders, and then put like a little Apple sign in the end in the bottom and say think different. So let's say you have a computer company, maybe instead of putting pictures of computers up, you put like something like that. For example, like put if your company stands for innovation, like you have a tech company, like it stands for innovation and like everything that's new and everything that's good, then put up pictures of for example innovators, and make people make that neural connection that like innovator mean like, if I see a picture of, let's say for example, Elon Musk means innovation. So that if that company associates with Elon Musk, boom, the company must be innovative. Um, so again, we wouldn't be posting pictures of computers, but we're building brand, and that's what it's all about. And then Twitter I like for engagement. So like every time somebody bitches about a competitor's product, they're like, wow, like like just like search the ad tag, like let's say for example at Microsoft, and every single time somebody is complaining at Microsoft that something crashed, something bugged, something what, you respond to them. And even better, like if you respond to them before Microsoft, how awesome is that? Now Microsoft users are like, wow, the company that I bought the product for doesn't give a shit, but there's this other company which makes products that look much better, and they care about me. So maybe next time, and if the bug is bad enough, or like if the computer's broken, maybe they need to go shop for another computer anyway. So when they go out shopping, they think of you and they might buy your product.
Wow. Yeah, yeah. It's
Yeah, and then
really
there's
yeah.
lots more. You can, with periscopes nowadays, you can have like an ongoing question and answers. So like the options are really endless. It's just always think about what can I do to capture the attention of the audience that's on this platform, and how can I convert it into sales.
All right, all right. So, okay. So how can we really make our brand unique and powerful? How can we make it memorable yet it is related to us? Do you have sort of like a framework for us?
Well, it goes back to defining what the brand is. So when I say that, I make people do many things. Like I say, hey, put it in one sentence, put it in 3 sentences, put it in 5 sentences. Just kind of describe it and give it a feeling, meaning, and that's what I said earlier with the tone. So for example, I want people to, write a number of like just practice tweets, for example, like what kind of tone is it using, so that it becomes a, because when you look at really like successful brands that use social media effectively, their social medias, they almost have a tone. It's like they have personality. They have every single time you respond, they will respond in a like fashion. So like what I was looking at, I think what's called Dos Equis, which with like the most interesting man in the world. They're on Facebook, they would always comment like in an easygoing, cool fashion, joking around, which goes along with the brand that like the beer's like, that cool, like the most interesting man in the world. So building that strong brand that's memorable is all about definition, because a lack of definition is means that you're just like messing around. You're just like anybody can post on your page and it doesn't make any difference. A great brand, you you define it so that it's almost like nobody else touches this unless you really know how the brand speaks. So that way, what I mean with that is, for example, if I say just do it, everyone knows Nike, right? Even though I didn't say Nike. So the point about building a really strong and memorable brand is that you create, we create so much more branding than just the name. Like, so that if you look at the set of colors, you know, oh, like Lilly Pulitzer, you know, Lilly Pulitzer has a very specific kind of coloring. So if I just see the coloring, I'm like, oh, that looks like Lilly Pulitzer, you know? Or if I put a specific slogan like just do it, even though there's no Nike sign, there's no Nike logo or nothing, I know, oh, just do it. Or like some motivational logo. See, that's a cool thing. Nike by now, if you see a t-shirt with like a short motivational line on it, most likely you'll associate it with Nike because like they've put a lot of stuff like that out. So now motivational stuff equals Nike, you know? So you try to expand your brand to more than just your name, and you really give it that feel so that like you can associate colors to it, that you can associate almost like that you can associate font to it, that you can associate tone to it, that you can associate messaging to it. And it all starts again from defining it first. And once it is defined, it's so much easier too, because a lot of company owners are like, I don't know what to put on social media, you know? But if you actually took the time to define what your brand is, then like, for example, I have a personal branding plan. Like I look back at my plan, I have to communicate A, B, C. I haven't posted about C in a while. Let me post about C, you know? So if you're, so putting, for example, one thing I do is like tell them, put the vibe of your brand in 3 words. So for example, for one of my startups, it was fast, fun, and simple. So everything I do, everything I post should be fast, fun, and simple. So for example, there's no space, like my brand should not write long paragraphs explaining stuff. Everything should be like a one-liner. Everything should be having like a cool vibe, like that college students would pay attention to, and that college students would read, and that it sounds like a college student wrote it, you know? So you really define it so that there's a brand identity more than just a name to it.
Okay, so it's really defining your company, and then write down what is the value of your company, and then act consistently with that value so that people will slowly associate you with those values and your brand. Is that how it works?
Right.
All right.
Huh? What is that?
Is that define your value, and then try to be consistent, act consistently with accordance with your value, and then so your audience will sort of relate your brand with these values.
Right. So let's say I make computers. That's what the actual business that I'm in. I make computers. My vision or my brand is to be the most innovative tech company in the world.
Okay.
Now over Twitter, like now we're going to the social channels. On Instagram, I post pictures of other innovators, of other innovations, so that people associate my company with innovation. On Twitter, I respond, for example, to other shitty products and show them just by comparison, show them how innovative I am. You know, like Microsoft still struggles with this, or maybe Apple still struggles with this. Look at what we can do. You know, that's, for example, not that Tesla does it, but like Tesla makes a lot of the auto industry look really stupid because in a really short time, they've made super innovative cars with, you know, for example, I drive a Benz, but like my Benz is more expensive than some Teslas, but it's got like the technology of like 10 years ago. So like, you know, after a while I realized like shit, like, you know, even though Benz is a really good brand, they really suck at technology compared to like a Tesla where you have like a 17-inch screen, everything is touch screen, everything is super, you know, automated and technologized. So like it's a brand new brand, but it can really kick the butt of like a lot of car makers that have been around for for like 100 years because of its innovation, and they communicate it properly. They might not use social channels, but for example, with the first model, what they did is they got a lot of celebrities, they got a lot of tech stars to buy that product. So now it's associated. If you want to be hip and cool and like a tech entrepreneur, you better own a Tesla, and
Okay, right.
that's how I communicate. Because I would always say, social media is one part of it, but like don't forget about all the other marketing out there. But social media still is the main medium of marketing right now. Why? Because that's where people spend their attention. When the TV is on, people aren't watching the ads on TV. They're looking down at their phone. So if you put an ad on the phone, you reach more people than you reach on the TV right now.
Goes where the attentions are. All right, all right. That is one important point. So, okay, so we talk about branding. We talk about how we define it, how we can how we can make it unique. So now down to the most important question: how can we maximize revenue and minimize advertising costs with using
Okay.
social media? Yeah, how do we do that? Now to
Using
this
social
point.
media. So
Yes.
okay, if you already done everything I've already talked about,
Yes.
and I mean really do it, like sit down for an hour and take out a piece of paper and really write down all these answers, like what is it, how do you communicate it in the channels. If you do this properly, you can already save yourself like a lot of like the ad money that you would usually spend. Because also what you have to keep in mind that sometimes people promote posts on like let's say Facebook or stuff that are just like really poorly put together. What it basically means is that now with a good brand, you technically need to reach fewer people because you have a higher conversion rate. But when we don't want to reach fewer people, we just want to make more money. So that way, that means we're still reaching the same amount of people, but more people convert. So that's how we make more money. How do we make that on a lower budget? That goes back to something I said earlier. Instead of paying for your audience to find you, which would be advertisement, like targeted advertising is, I pay for you to get me like 5 clicks. I pay for you to get me 1,000 impressions. What you can do is organically create those impressions. So
Okay.
if we say, for example, if we go back to the example of computers, if I want people to follow my brand, I go on the Microsoft accounts and I find people that follow Microsoft. I find people that like Microsoft's posts. I find people that retweet Microsoft, So I find people that are already interested in their products, meaning they are in my niche. So, like here's the consumer market. Do is small it, narrow it down to your niche, and the way you find it is go to your closest competitors. You go to your closest competitors and start attacking their audience. Attacking meaning showing them you exist.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's, you can do that for free. Even if you just like 100 pictures a day. While you sit and watch TV, the advertisement comes on the TV. You take out your phone and go on Instagram and like a lot of pictures or engage with a lot of pictures that use a hashtag that's very relevant to your niche, or you engage with users that are tweeting about something that's relevant to you on Twitter, that you could really, let's say for example, there's a big recall in cars for, let's say, Toyota. What should Honda do? Honda should respond to every single complaint tweet, so that next time people think, oh, should I get the Civic or the Camry? They're gonna go for the Civic, right? So really, you have to make what you have to realize with advertisement. So like advertisement's all about creating that relationship and getting into people's heads. You can get into people's heads for free by using social media properly.
So it's really about creating values, and
Yeah.
then you sort of, yeah, it's really about creating values, right?
It's always about creating value for me. And I taught this recently in Peru. I gave a talk. There's basically a mutually connected loop between value and wealth. The more value you give, the more wealth you'll have. And it's just, if you want more, you got to give more, because it will always come back. And a lot of times that comes in the form of free, meaning, for example, one of the reasons why I am where I am today is because I worked a lot on a lot of shit for free, you know? A lot of the conferences where I make a ton of connection. Like I helped start 2 conferences, and I basically I joined the team and I helped for free, you know? So it's not like I was like, oh, I want to get paid at least $50 an hour, like all the Bernie Sanders supporters out there. No, I was working on it for free. I was helping build value, even though I was not getting anything for it. But in the end, it paid off more than 100-fold because, you know, I made really, really valuable connections. Because now I'm, you know, the president of a venture capital firm is inviting me for his birthday, you know. You know, like you make those friendships, and people need to get out of that mindset of expecting and first give. Because, you know, the one thing a lot of young people have too much of is time. You know, we have a lot of time, but they don't use it properly. So find ways of giving it, and like giving it to something that's relevant to what you want to have, and you'll get it back, you know?
Wow. So yeah, it really hits me where you talk about creating value. It's really a lot of times people are trying to be very pushy and try to get something from the customer. Instead, we should be adding value to the customer and trying to pull them towards us. Yeah, it's really interesting. It's all about adding value. Yes.
Yeah, and you can build a social proof by giving too, you know?
Oh.
So let's say, for example, in the with my consulting business, here I am, I was like, 19 years old. So like, why would a company hire a 19-year-old to help with a business? Or why would a startup give equity to a 19-year-old? So what did I do? I called up like a dozen or 2 dozen startup CEOs and made my pitch. And I was like, listen, I will do the first month for free. And if you like it, then there's 2 things. Like, if you like it, you know, leave me a review, write something positive about me. And more so, if you like it, let's continue, but here's my fee schedule. So for them, it's like, sure, why not get a whole month of free labor, free advice and everything? So for them, you know, there's nothing to lose. So boom, I became the consultant. And now I was able to, like, when the second I called the next guy, I'm like, oh yeah, I already consult X, Y, and Z company. So he's like, oh, he must be legit, right? So boom, I'm on board. And really, really fast, I became the consultant for like a dozen companies. Some of them weren't paying me, but at least A, I got the social proof. B, I got more and more experience because while I was helping others, I was learning from all of them, you know, even though they didn't know it, you know, I was learning bits and pieces from all of them. See, I built a network. Now, anytime I need to reach I need to speak to somebody high up in a certain niche, I know somebody in that niche. And nowadays I can charge, you know, I'm charging a couple $100 an hour basically for my work in the consulting business. But it was a build up, you know, I didn't start at that level. And, you know, I'm still 21, but now if people say, oh, you know, you're really young, but I have a track record. Now I can say, you know, I've worked with all these companies, and now I'm, you know, just recently, you know, I took over as the CEO of a crowdfunding site, and wow. You know, I'm getting equity. I'm the CEO and everything. But the point is, you know, despite me being like the age was never a thing. Age has never been a thing. I think our main hindrance is experience, and a lot of people are stuck in this conundrum where like I can't get the good position because I don't have experience, but I can't get experience unless I have that good job. So the key to breaking this whole circle is doing work for free, because nobody's going to pay you for that good job right now because you don't have the experience. But somebody might let you do this really cool job, this really interesting thing where you can learn from, if you're not going to charge anything. So at least you get it, like, you know, like it's a circle. And the point is, you're not getting in the circle normally. But if you can, as soon as you get in the circle, you'll be fine, because once let's say you do the first time for free, they really like it. Now you can get the second one. Now you have a second one, you can raise your prices, because by the third time, you know a lot more. You can say, hey, this has worked. These are the results. And, you know, it counts for everything. You know, I did it with my consulting business. I did it with my trading business, because trading in the beginning, why would somebody want to learn how to trade stocks from an 18-year-old, you know? Risky. So what did I do? I pitched a lot of people. I showed them my results. And after a short time, I had 2 students, and I just charged them $30 for 3 hours in a week. So
Wow.
basically, at $10 an hour, I was teaching somebody how to trade the stock market. But it was a start, At
Yes,
least
yes.
now I can say I have my 2 paying customers, and they told others about it. They got all excited about it. They told others. Soon I had the next ones. Now instead of charging $30 for 3 hours, I'm charging $50 for 1 hour. And then the next time around, I'm charging $100 per hour. So it's really just about, before you expect anything, give, and it will give you so much other, like you will get value in another kind. You will get value in social proof. You'll get value in referrals. You'll get value in learning from the experience. And very soon after, you'll be able to expand. So, and it's not like a long waiting process. I think giving value, especially if it's free, is an extreme accelerator. It will pay off in 2 months, 3 months, 6 months. So,
Wow, that's amazing. All right, all right. That's a very interesting talk. So let me try to my next question would be what is the mistakes that people often make when they are doing branding and social media? What's the mistakes? What are the mistakes? Sorry.
the mistakes, I would say one for sure is not defining the brand properly. And that is the two things. A, not defining it at all, just trying to do social media. Because let's say, for example, you have a rude customer, right? Somebody says something mean about you on Twitter. And that's where a lot of companies fall apart, because they never defined what the brand is. So what do? They're like, wow, how dare they say this about my product? So they say something mean back, or like they start a Twitter war. And you have to really, like, for some brands, that's fine, that works with their brand, but for other brands, it just doesn't align with what the brand should be like, and therefore they look really bad in a public eye. So, A, the failure to define it, and secondly, defining it without an eye on the future. What do I mean by that? If for example, one of my companies, I wanted to make it really cool, and almost do some, I wanted to apply to college students, and let's say, for example, let's say if what do college students like? How can I get a lot of followers? How can I get a lot of followers on Instagram? How? Post half naked girls. That's how I get a lot of followers on Instagram.
All right.
So that might have been an approach, but then I realized, hey, if I ever want, investors, if I ever want venture capital to support me, or if I ever want to be like, to work at a higher level, like to run the company at a higher level, that can really bite me in the butt, because it will haunt me later. Like if the brand from the get-go is kind of like seen as this fratty, almost like, it can turn off some female users, because, it's just like there's so many like moving parts to it, like where you think in the short term, I can get a lot of growth, but in the long term, it really hurts my name and hurts my brand. Because if you think about it, Snapchat, for example, Snapchat became initially famous for two things. One, high school students were using it to cheat on tests. They were taking pictures of stuff and sending it to each other, and it was deleting itself. Secondly, it became successful because you could send nudes, and your nudes would delete themselves. So it's two very, very shady things, and people associate that with the Snapchat brand, but Snapchat doesn't publicly write on that. Snapchat, if you look at all their social media, and if you look at all the snap videos that you get from Team Snapchat, it almost looks like a kid's app. It's like with the little cute ghost, and every single time I get a snap from Team Snapchat, it's like a little cute ghost going through like fairy tale land. And when in reality, we think about like almost like porn, like nudes and stealing homework and like all kinds of like shady things. But the Snapchat brand could have really, really, really hurt themselves if they would have publicly associated with that. If they would have publicly been like, yo, like on Twitter, like send pics of your, I don't know, So branding is like the branding mistakes is A, being clear about what your brand is, and B, making sure that however you communicate it aligns with your 5-year plan, with your 10-year plan. Because, Snapchat could for sure have, gotten the same growth or even bigger growth if they would have publicly promoted themselves as that sort of thing. But guess what? Like a lot of celebrities or a lot of, let's say like, other, like for example, parents wouldn't have allowed their 15-year-old to own Snapchat if Snapchat is known for that sort of thing. The same way older people might not have like gotten onto Snapchat if they would have known that that's what it's for. Why? Because Snapchat made sure that while there is a certain outside branding created by consumers, they still keep their brand clean and fight against it. So it might seem almost counterintuitive at first because, hey, it's working. Like Snapchat might be thinking, hey, it's working for us. This kind of like bad looking brand is drawing in consumers in the millions. This is awesome for business. But if they wouldn't have fought against that, it would have hurt them in the long run, and they would have lost a lot of consumers that they have now. It would have probably been tossed aside as a shady kind of app within a year or two.
Okay. So it's
So
really,
it's kind of long-term versus short-term
yeah,
thinking when it comes to branding.
it's really not to act against your value, even though it can really accelerate your growth. We always have to look at the long-term vision instead of the short-term game. All right.
Right. I don't even, yeah, I don't see it as like an, I'm not to judge, like whatever the values are is fine. But the point is usually when you start a business, you start with a niche, you have your target market. But what you have to keep in mind is that in the 5-year, 10-year plan, that market is expanding. So whatever you do now to get to your target market needs to happen, but it shouldn't happen in a way that's going to prevent you from later on reaching the others, you know? Meaning,
Right.
for example, like if your target market initially is men 16 to 24, you might reach a lot of them with some, what's the word? Is it chauvinistic or like, like kind of and like very man-centric with some very man-centric
Okay.
content. You could get a lot of males aged 16 to 24, but if 5 years down the road you want females aged 25 to 35, that's not how you can start, because those will remember, oh no, that's this pig brand, that's all about, girl ass, So like you have to be really intentional about where you are and how to capture the audience, but also make sure that whatever you're doing now to get them is not throwing roads down, like stones down the road later on.
All right. All right. Okay. We are about to end this. Before that, you were talking about a consulting firm. What is it about really? Your consulting firm?
So what I started is Hartman Capital.
Yes. Yes.
At this point, I'm really only accepting fewer clients since I'm now the CEO of a company,
Yeah.
of another startup. And like I do a lot of things, but with Hartman Capital, what I do is I take in clients, startups, large businesses, small businesses, whatever it is, and I really help them the whole branding and marketing plan, starting from zero and doing what I said in the beginning, defining your brand, defining it in a way that can attract those raving customers, but also like that captures them fast now, but also make sure that they, you avoid mistakes like I just discussed in the future. So you create a brand that it works for now and for the future. And then how can you integrate that? We talk, like we get everything down into a plan, like the feel, the sound, how do you convey it in a tweet, how do you convey it in a snap, how do you convey it in Instagram, and then what channels are we going to use, what's going to be posted, when and where, so like what kind of content are we putting on the different platforms, and how we're going to formulate that. So basically just putting branding and marketing all together. We're creating one really functional plan. We're going to go a very logical route. We started just defining your company and then moving forward over a 10-year span. So it's not 10 years, sorry, 10 week. Over 10 weeks, every week we have a session. In the beginning, we have 2 sessions a week. And we talk strategy. We set everything up so that by the end of the 10 weeks, You have ready to go plan that you can give an intern, you can give that you can execute yourself if you want. You can execute yourself, and that really will take you to a whole nother level. That will get you conversions. So like if your company right now, if you're doing social media, if you're spending thousands of dollars on ads and you're not seeing a conversion, stop spending money on ads and spend it on me instead for the 10 weeks. You'll spend less, like that's actually something, when I write proposals, I can be like, you will actually save money going with me, because once you go with me, you can slash your advertising budget in half and get more results, So we just optimize everything. We talk about branding, we talk about social media strategy and outside marketing strategy too. And what I also offer is some automation. I have some own proprietary softwares that allow you to kind of do what I mentioned earlier. For example, like engaging with followers of competitors, but optimize it. It's like you don't have to spend the time that it's done automatically. I'll get them in touch with like one-on-one interviews with their niche customers, because like a lot of times people try to sell something but they don't even know the customer. So let's say you sell shoes to 16 to 24-year-olds. I will find you like a fanatic shoe collector, 16 to 24, and have you sit down with them for an hour, and like really talk about, what does your brand stand for and what do they want. So it even goes into product development. So in short, it's just like a whole around holistic program that takes you from kind of like, dabbling to mastering. That's really the difference. Like you dabble in social media, you dabble in marketing, you don't have that conversion yet. We're going to change it around. We're going to turn your small business brand into, like a world-class brand, like that people look at this and like, damn, I could see this be a Nike. I could see this be an Apple, by using the same strategies that a lot of big successful brands use.
What are the results that you have created, or what are the results that you can give to the people who are working with you?
What I forgot my number. Was it last year I grew accounts by, was it 10,000%? I just know that like even right now, like for example, using my personal brand, every single month it grows by at least 20%, which is massive growth, because like it compounds, meaning the 20% is more every month. So, and what I like to say to companies is, a lot of companies, they hire social media agencies or social media companies, but here's the funny thing: those social media companies, they've got a fucking shabby 100 likes on Facebook. So if the social media company can only get 100 likes on Facebook, how good is their work? So that's why I show people, listen, I'm a 21-year-old. I'm just a kid doing my thing. If I was so like, obviously there must be substance and to my strategy. Obviously my strategy must work, because I'm already, having like 50,000 followers across social media, and I'm just a person. Your brand, you have an actual product, you have a team behind it, you have like so much going into it. You should have way more than me. So, that's also a selling point, like, because it works for me, I'm going to make it work for you. But a lot of these people trying to sell you on social media be like, oh, like that say, I can be a social media manager, but they themselves, they have like less than 1,000 followers across all social media. I wouldn't trust them with my money. But with me, on the other hand, I have a lot of followers, none of which I bought, but even more so, I have continuous growth. You can look, probably since the time we scheduled our talk, I've gotten a couple thousand new followers, So it's continuous growth, and people see that, and yeah, it's there. I've sold, I wrote a book. It's fiction, but I've used my social media attack Dark Age by the book. I've created social media channels for my book. And fun fact, my book, before it was published, like an unpublished book, first time author, I had over 5,000 followers across Instagram and Twitter. 5,000 people follow a book that's not out yet by a person that's never published a book before, yet I have fans. And then I created a website, and you can see the website darkagebook.com. I've over time, I've collected like 20 different tweets. People saw the book cover, people read the description, and they're like, oh my God, when is this book coming out in Mexico? Oh my God, will this be available in Finland? How about Argentina? What about Malaysia? And like all of a sudden, I have people from across the world asking for a book that's not out yet. You know, all I gave them was a synopsis, a book cover, and some really cool quotes from within the book. And people were like, wow, this is really cool. How did I do it? I used my strategy, you know. I made a very clear defined brand, and more so what I also did is I reached out to fans of, let's say, Game of Thrones, fans of Pillars of the Earth, fans of people that are in a very similar that like I reach out to people that are fans of books that are in my niche, right? So and boom, before it was published, I sold pre-sale copies, you know, pre-launch copies. So people knew the book wasn't going to be out for 3 months, yet they paid $20 to buy a book that's not going to be sold for 3 months, you know. So it works, you know. I've used it for myself. I'll continue using it, and the results are there. You get social media growth, which means more followers, which means more social proof, which means more opportunities, and also more conversion. You know, you'll get more money.
Wow, that's amazing. Okay, all right. Maybe if any of you are interested to talk with Felix, I will leave his contact later at the end of the interview. So right, so they can my audiences can just contact you, right? So yeah, all right.
Awesome.
All right, awesome. That's amazing. You are selling a book that has yet to
be published. I mean, clearly the book exists. It's real. I wrote it.
Yes,
it's launching the 24th. So in less than a week, it's out finally. But you know, I started marketing it back in March. So
that's amazing. In just 2 months' time, you grow it to 5,000, and people are starting to, buying it before it is even out.
Available, yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. All right. I'm gonna end this off with one last question.
Mm-hmm.
If you can only give one advice to all the young aspiring entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs, what would it be? What would be that advice? Yeah.
For me, it would be persistence. Be persistent in what you pursue. Success, it's not going to happen immediately. A lot of times, like I said, it takes a lot of free work. It takes a lot of free hours. Sometimes it takes years. Maybe your first idea isn't going to work. Maybe your second idea isn't going to work. Maybe your third idea isn't going to work out. But what you have to remind yourself is that when that third idea doesn't work out, you have to ask yourself, do I know more now than I knew when I started my first one? Do I have more connections than I had the first one? And if the answer to those questions is yes, then hey, it was a success. You got somewhere. So I would always keep working, and that's the key part with persistence. Actual work has to happen. I think too often we say we're busy, but we're not really doing anything. It's really about getting the results, asking yourself, what do I have to do next to get to the next level, and then doing that. Because I think too often we bullshit ourselves by doing random things that really that don't give us the results. So focus on things that give you the results and put the time in, because too many people come up with excuses like, I don't have the time, I don't have the money. But hey, if you spend less money on coffee or going out at night, you can save a little bit of money and then invest in your business. Like, for example, getting a professionally done book cover. I could have bullshitted this and done it in Photoshop and looked shitty, but I put in $1,000 and now I have a professional looking book cover. People say, oh, I don't have $1,000. Well, save up for a few months and then you have it, Maybe work more, maybe take up a small job and you make money. And just work hard, like this week, since I run the new company, we've come home at 1 a.m. We've come home at midnight. Yesterday, I took off early, to hang out with my girlfriend, and we went home at 10 p.m. So, the nicest cars are always the last to leave the lot. It's something interesting to observe. If you want more, then put in more. And I've seen it. That you don't have to be your own boss. You don't have to be an entrepreneur. My brother owns a development shop, and one of his employees, he's brand new. He's been working for a month, but he always tells till close. He always tells till the very end. And within that 1 month, he's gotten a lot of promotions. just because he puts in the time, because he shows he cares, and because he wants to learn. So if you really want to be successful, I think like in today's day and age, it's easy being successful. Why? Because you're not competing with many people. I think wealth is like a pyramid. No, it's the truth. Wealth is like a pyramid. Like, yes, a lot of people are poor, but I think it's because 97% of the people, they're not really trying. And that might sound rough. A lot of people will be like, oh, but Felix, not everyone has had the opportunities like you. But I've had single digits on my bank account during my college times. But I was the one that would sit in the library till late at night studying how to trade stocks. I would start while others were out partying. I had business meetings. So it's just really about putting the time in, because I just love it when people tell me, oh, one day, like, I'm going to be a CEO. And I'm like, of what kind of company? You're like, what are you doing right? Ask, what are you doing right now to get there? It's like, oh, I don't know. It's not just going to happen. You're not just going to be handed the title CEO. You're not just going to be handed a company. You're not just going to be handed $1 million. That's why people do the lottery. People do the lottery because for them, it's the one chance of just getting handed $1 million. But in real life, it doesn't happen. So again, we go back to the value wealth loop. The more value you give, the more wealth you receive. So, if you're young and you don't have many responsibilities, that, give as much value as you can, work long hours, maybe party half as much, maybe spend half as much money on your Starbucks, and instead put it into, like, invest it in yourself,
Wow, that's amazing. All right. Thank you for your time over in the Under 35 Entrepreneur Show. So, all right. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
All right.